like we found us a trophy truck out in the wild. She's gonna need some work. So you can see she's been laying out there for a while, abused, but we're gonna give her a brand new life. Bring her back better than ever. I hope you guys like that intro to this video. Kind of wanted to do something a little different with this. This is actually a truck that I already had in my arsenal. It's been kind of sitting for a while. I had it, just basically a generic body on it, and then I got rid of that body, added this gray Chevy body. Got tired of it too. Now it's time for a complete overhaul. It needs it, honestly. I've really never maintenance this in probably about 2 years. First off, I have to strip everything down. So we're gonna strip this down to the bare metal. I plasti dipped this a while back, and I'm having a hard time taking it off by hand. So I got some a wire brush to take it off, and some Goo Gone, and see if that works. Alright, and here are all the pieces laid out. Doesn't look like very much when you take it off of the truck. Alright, and there we have it. It's all stripped down. You can see a lot more of the green on it than you could before because all the panels are off. Next thing is we're going to try the wire wheel on it first and see if that scrapes off. If that doesn't work, then I'll douse it down with the Goo Gone and then hit it with the wire wheel. So we have our cage. Like I said, this screen is plasti dip. I'm going to use this Goo Gone spray gel, and basically I'm just going to douse it, let it sit for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to use the wire brush to take it off. Basically what this will do is it's going to dissolve. It should eat away at the plastic, and then it should be pretty easy to come with the wheel and just take all that off. And to be honest, it's already working. I already have like green slime on my fingers. It's already eating away at it. I can scratch it off with my nail, so it almost works instantly to take it off, which is really cool because I was trying to take this off by hand by scraping it off or with an X-Acto knife, and it just was not working. So now I've let it sit for about 20 minutes. As you can see, I had already started on this area. It's just basically scraping off. Let's do this one right here. See how that works? Now let's do this one up here. Awesome, working great. Alright, and I'm not sure how well this shows up, but this is just one quick pass of the wire wheel. Just kind of hitting it in different spots just to see what came off. Gonna douse it down again with another layer of the Goo Gone, and we'll be right back. Alright, and this is how it looks like after the second time with the wheel. You can definitely see a lot more being taken off, but kind of disappointed. I thought we were gonna have more come off a lot faster than this, but it's alright. I'm gonna let it soak for some more, and we'll give it a wipe down after this. This is gonna be like all the little corner crevices and stuff. Brought it into some better light, so this is what it looks like now. And this is basically as far as I can go with the wire wheel, and the rest will have to be by hand. So I sprayed it again, let it dissolve, and we're gonna finish it off by hand now. Alright, after a little bit of elbow grease and a lot of time, here we are. The bare metal chassis. There's still some green on there, believe it or not, but that plasti dip is some nasty stuff to take off. I'll tell you what, I would not recommend using that for anything. I'm pretty sure I could have dissolved actual paint off of this thing faster with acetone or with gasoline than I could have with this stuff. So I highly recommend you do not use plasti dip. Just my 2 cents. But here it is. Bare metal cage. We're now ready. I let it dry overnight. That way I got a lot of that oil off. I'm going to hit it one more time with a little bit of sandpaper just to take a little bit of as you can see, it's already wanting to rust a little bit. So I'll do that, and then I'll get started with the primer. Now there are some green spots, and I'm not really too concerned. Like in here, you can see some of the green, but I'm not concerned with that because the primer is pretty much going to take care of it. The plasti dip is dry enough to where it'll work as a base for the primer, basically. So not really too concerned with that. And the thing I am concerned with is it's a little bit cold outside, so I really don't want to paint outside, but I guess for primer it's okay. And my trusty assistant here is gonna help me paint the cage. So really excited about that. He's the new helper in the shop, my new paint guy. All right, so we have the first layer done. I've let it dry for an hour per the instructions on the can, which is pretty cool. It's actually very fast drying. It's not rubbing off on my fingers, so it's holding. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the final coat of primer, which is gonna be a really wet coat, and we're gonna let this dry for 24 hours. Then we'll start our actual paint. Next up is cleaning up the shocks. I've already cleaned them up. I'm gonna go ahead and empty out the old oil and put new one in there since I already have them disassembled. Might as well just do that now. And it's also very, very dirty, so replacing this one, and I'm also gonna replace the oil and the bypass shock. Got the shocks all cleaned up, new oil and all of them. Now mounted up to the RC four-wheel drive trailing arms, which these are new for this vehicle. I didn't have these on there originally. I had some plastic ones. The last thing that we did was this aluminum diff case. Alright, so the next upgrade that I'm going to do to this is actually in the transmission box. So I use a stock Traxxas two-wheel drive box. This is a black one. Nothing special. It's geared for brushless. So I've been running 48 pitch gearing, which does okay. I feel like it could use a little more power, and I also want some more durability so I don't have to access the box so much. And I am going with the 32 pitch gear. So the 54.2 from Traxxas, we're going to go ahead and swap this out into the slipper of this one, and we're going to drop in a bigger motor. So at the current moment, I'm using this Castle 4PO. I believe it's the 3800 kV. You can use 2 to 3S on it. Now, it does pretty good, but because the truck is so heavy, I have felt this motor get somewhat hot pretty quick. So I'm swapping it out for the Axial 3150 kV Vanguard motor that comes in the Axial Score. So to do the swap is pretty simple. You just have to remove the screws for the slipper. I like to remove the screws first, and then I'll remove this nut that's here in the middle. Just make sure to keep everything together because you're going to reassemble this. What I'm going to do is after I disassemble this, I'm going to clean the case up a little bit. So here's our slipper. Our bearing is extremely dirty. So we're going to start off by just popping off this slipper clutch. Now the easiest way that I found is just kind of put your screwdriver there, give it a tap with something heavy on the other side, and it usually comes out. Then we'll just check our slipper pads, which actually are in pretty good shape. They're showing even wear and smooth surface, so that's good. Okay, and here's our new slipper, which is the 54.2 from a Slash 4x4. Your slipper is going to go on the other side like this. Just go ahead and reassemble it with your 3 screws. Don't worry about the bearing, we'll add it in right now. And we're just going to tighten these down. Now that they're all a little tight, we're going to go back through and just put the extra little bit of pressure. I'll go until it's tight and then give it about half a turn. So now about half a turn and half a turn. Here's our original bearing. If you can, pop it out with your finger. Just kind of put pressure on it. It should come out. If it doesn't, you can use actually this tool, the cross tool. Put it on top of the bearing. Give it a tap and it'll come out. Sometimes they're a little stubborn. It just really depends. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that bearing in some oil so it can let it soak for a little bit while we work on the transmission. So on the transmission, we're going to take off the slipper disc. Take all of these out. Take this pin out. If you can't get it out like I can't right now, just put a 1.5 millimeter hex through there and it falls out. And just make sure you're keeping track of all your things to make sure that everything goes back together. You can see all this dust and dirt, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe all this down. So here's the interior. I went ahead and cleaned it up. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just basically put a little dab here, or a big dab of, this is white lithium multi-purpose grease. And I'll go ahead and just kind of spin this around, let it circulate around the gears. Yeah, it's got a nice contact up here, so I'm going to give it another little dab. Hopefully that one sticks on the inside here. Looks like we are good to go on the inside, and I can reassemble the case. Cleaned up the bearings, put in the oil, and cleaned up the case on the outside. Alright, our transmission case is now put back together. Everything is nice and clean, oiled up. We're going to put that new slipper back on. So we're going to start by putting our pin back in here. Should just slide and kind of leave it even. Then you're going to get your slipper plate, and you can see that it has a slot cut in. Just kind of match up that slot and you'll feel it drop in. Next thing is your slipper disc, and it actually has little notches that'll line up there as well. Finally, we're going to put our new spur gear in there. Drop your spring, then your locking nut. Kind of start it by hand and then finish it off with the T-wrench. Now, I don't like to leave it too tight. As soon as I kind of feel some pressure, that's where I'm going to leave it at, and then that feels good to me. If you want to drop it off and back a little bit, or you want to make it tighter, that's fine. Just remember, too tight, too loose, you're going to burn your pads pretty quick. And that's how you change a 48 pitch to a 32 pitch. Now, I like this for some reason, me personally, because I feel like these gears last longer, they grab better, and I just feel like you have more options with the Slash 4x4 gearing in terms of pinions, different brands, cross compatibility. So that's what I'm going to do. So as I stated earlier, this is the motor that I had in there before. Let's do it like this. That's the 4-pole Castle. Here is the 3150 Vanguard. So you can see it's a bigger can size. It's a 550 size. It's going to put out more torque, and also it's got the fatter shaft in there. So I shouldn't have any problem stripping gears, pinions, or anything of that nature, and it should still match up with that gearing. There we are. We are done with that. We have the 18 tooth pinion with 54, which should give us about 40-45 miles, maybe 50 with a 3S. Now that we have this Axial Vanguard 3150 motor in there, so beefed up the the drivetrain a little bit, and hopefully we can put a little bit more power onto this truck, because I felt like it was a little weak before. The next thing that's getting upgraded, well, not upgraded first, but these shocks are Proline shocks that have a dual spring inside on these. I'm actually just going to redo the oil on them, and after that, going to clean up this whole front. And I'm replacing the Proline ProTrack arms with these. These are the Metal Concepts RC aluminum arms. They look great. They're the gull wing style, so very trophy truck looking. I'm gonna try this out with these shocks. If for some reason it doesn't work, then I might just leave the ProTrack kit. So it kind of really just depends on this, because I don't want to spend money on new shocks when these are actually really good on their own. So I'm just gonna have to try that out. So today is day 2 of paint, and I went ahead and used this metallic Rust-Oleum. Now, there still hasn't been a product that comes out this chrome, and as you can see here, it's another case just like that. I followed the instructions just like they said, used the primer that they said to use, and it's still just like a really bright silver. Not chrome per se, but this is only the first coat. Got really good coverage. I mean, to me it looks good. I'm not really complaining, but we're going to let this dry for an hour, apply the second coat, and then we're going to do the same thing as the primer and just let it dry for 24 hours and see how it looks. There she is. Now, the paint didn't come out as chrome as I'd like. I think from far away it can kind of fool you if it's in the sun, but I think overall it's just really more kind of like the can said. It's metallic silver, but the lid shows chrome. But either way, I'm happy with the way this came out. I like the this color scheme just because if I ever do choose to go with another body, I think it'll just fit in with basically anything. I think the silver, chrome, and black will basically work with any color scheme. So I kind of went with a color where I really don't ever want to have to strip this down. If I do, it'll just be sections that I can tape off and repaint as I use the truck. But here's our totally new reworked front end. As you can see, it's got long travel arms now. Upgraded the shocks from the Pro lines just because this is a much longer arm and it takes a lot more travel to get down to here. Now I just kind of put it in the middle just to see how it's going to perform. I don't know how this is going to work just of yet. I just know that the dimensions seem to be right based on just looks. So once everything is on, I'll test it out. If I feel like it's not good enough, then I might move it to another hole in here and just kind of keep testing tuning. But the arms went on just fine. I really didn't have any issues. Besides, the arms are actually a little bit wider than the Pro Track, so I had to put a bushing in here. Keeping the stock blocks on here, I really don't care. The wheels are going to cover it anyways. You're going to be more focused on the arms, so Everything's going pretty good. The cage is done, as you guys saw. So what's left? Looks like time for reassembly. Well, she's finally done. There was a lot that went on behind the scenes before I got to this point, so let's go ahead and go over some of those. I added in a light bar down here. Also added in working LEDs to the light bar on top. I got all of the wiring nice and tidy as much as I could and ran it all just through one hole in the roof. Now the good thing about this is that it does have a detachable cable here, so if I want to take the body off, it's just one cable for all of these lights up here to disconnect, and I can tuck the wire away if I want to run it without the body. So a majority of the work that I did went into the rear, as you can see from the last time you didn't have all of this. So 3D printed this radiator fan and painted it. I had some spare accessories lying around, so I put a fire extinguisher here, put one here for the passenger. Obviously, I added an interior. This is an Axial Yeti score that I had to cut down and fit in, and it basically it's in there pretty good. One of the changes that I did do, if you notice, is I changed Gordon to Braden. The reason why is I had a son that passed away 2 years ago, and this was kind of that's kind of what kept me going on this. Is kind of this would have been his first RC, so this would have been probably one of the coolest RCs to have, being 2-3 years old, which is pretty insane. But I wanted to do it in inspiration for him. He won't be with me in the physical world, but at least when I'm RCing, he can be with me, and that means a lot to me. So I went ahead and covered up the Gordon. I printed out his name, and I also made him the driver for the truck as well. But back to the rear, 3D printed the sand ramps. I had this scale high lift jack lying around, so I just added that into the rear. The scale fuel tank from an Axial Rock Racer, painted that up, kind of gave it some weathering, put fuel tubing, and 3D printed a gas cap from an Axial Bomber. So now it looks like it has, like a skew. Now it has a scale fuel. I extended the wire for the ESC because my battery actually sits under these wheels. All I have to do is just take off this one wheel and I can slide the battery in and out. So I made sure to have enough extension room. I'm not sure if I'm gonna zip tie it all the way completely to here. We'll see. I'm gonna run it and see if it gets in the way of anything. If you can see it in the video, if you can, then I'll tuck it more underneath, and we'll have everything running down to this side. Everything kind of came together on this truck very nicely. Just I really couldn't have asked for better, just for a better result, to be honest. The only thing that I'm a little disappointed on overall is how the body fit onto the cage, but I kind of knew that going into this because that cage was not meant for Atrax's body. It was meant for that original Chevy body that I had on it, but I just kind of got tired of it and I didn't really know what direction to take it in. What really got me to go in this direction is I had this body, brand new body. Well, not brand new, but pretty semi new. It didn't have too many scratches, and as you saw in the video, I hacked away at this thing to make it fit. And I had the wheels. I can always swap these out for paddles, which I have, and I can put paddles in the rear if I don't want the orange wheels, or vice versa. I can run paddles on this, so it's very compatible with all of the short course 2.2, 3.0 wheels. One thing I forgot to mention is these exhaust ports are from an Axial Yeti Score. Cut the body, added them in, just painted up the rivets a little bit. Looks awesome. I'm really, really, really thrilled with how this turned out. Can't wait to get this out and run it. I don't know if you guys saw this as well. I added the RPM mud flaps. I know that's not really a trophy truck style, but I like it. And seeing as how I put a short course body on it, I kind of just went with it. I don't have a 3-channel radio to run on this, so I had to put in a switch for the light. Unfortunately, that light will always run unless I disconnect it, so that's why I made the quick disconnect inside here. So if I want to, I can just pull the cable off if I really don't want it. Now, but yeah, I made the switch in here so that way I can access it really fast in the field if I need to. I know this is a bit of a long video, and if you made it to the end, I really do appreciate it so very much. This build meant a lot to me. And just stay tuned. I'll be doing some testing with the suspension, and I'll be doing some videos with it pretty soon. So I'm really, really excited about that. Believe me when I say this is not going to be a shelf queen. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions at all, as always, please leave them down below. I always try to answer back. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and hit notifications, and stay tuned for this beautiful truck to come out soon. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.